Hope everyone is doing well this morning. Thanks for getting up early with me, for those of you on the West Coast and other countries. I'm going to do some painting, just hang out, talk, answer questions, that kind of stuff. So, I've got 3 Vanguard vets that I'm going to be working on here. So, hopefully get a little bit of work done on them for my squad of 10. So I also haven't edge highlighted them yet, so I'll probably do some of that, but I'm not going to torture myself live by doing all 3 of them at once. So we'll do a little bit of that. I'll probably do something else first, though. We'll do some red shoulder pads. That's what we'll do first. Whenever I'm doing shoulder pads like this, I always pull towards me. It's a lot easier to control. And we are going to have to do several coats with this. This is Mephiston Red. It's pretty thin. This is an older pot that I had to rescue from the clutches of time. So I added flow improver into it, mixed it up with a mixer. I really can't wait for the day when GW goes away from paint pots, because they're just awful. Although fortunately we do have some alternatives now. I forget the name of the company, but they make these little toppers that you can go put onto the bottle with like a shaker ball in it, and then it works like a dropper bottle, like this. It works great. I need to pick up some more. Morning, Cohen. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, I debated between, Mephisto on red. I debated between doing Vanguard vets this morning or working on my Redemptor. Um, Ultimately, I decided on the Van vets. One, for the memes, because it's now a big inside joke on our Discord channel, so come check us out there and see what that's all about. But also, the Redemptor is just so big that when I was holding it under the camera, it was like half out of focus. So I was like, let's do the Vanguard bets for today. We'll make it a little easier. Plus, I've been wanting to get them painted anyway because they're gonna last a long time, hopefully. GW, please don't nerf. Yeah, I like these. I like these a lot. They hold up really well, considering that this upgrade kit is like, gosh, probably 15 years old now. I think it came out in 2005, 2006, something like that. I have so many. I have so many that I had to sort of go to third party. There's a lot of great shoulder pads on Shapeways that you can find. And just to get some more variety because otherwise I'm going to end up with the same pads over and over and over again. As great as they are, I still like to use them, but I try to mix them up with some other ones, and then of course some decal ones as well. One of these dudes, was it this guy? Yeah, this guy. He'll need a decal. So, but like this guy, he's got a third party one. So. Would I put a Redemptor in a 1K list? Probably. They're in the configuration I like to run, which is the Macroplasma with the Gatling cannon underslung and the Storm Bolters with the Icarus pod. Is only 185 points, and it will be good in any points list. I don't know that I'd run it in 500, but in 1,000, yeah, absolutely, I'd run it. Anyone need Rhino Land Raider doors? Yeah, I have a billion in one of those too. Where's Crew? Yeah, there you go. Need some Rhino Land Raider doors. So the frag launchers have a more swingy nature, I think, because they're D6 shots. You could theoretically get more shots from them, but the storm bolters are going to be more consistent because they're always, if you're in 12 inches, you're going to get 8 shots all the time. They also have a longer range. They're 24 inches versus 18, I think, I want to say, for their Redemptor. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure they're 18 for the frag storms or frag assault launchers or whatever they're called. Um, so, yeah. Welcome. I have a wet palette. I'm actually transitioning to a new wet palette, which is why I'm not using it today. Um, I had been using a homemade one, but it it's kind of run its course. It still works fine, but it was just like a Tupperware piece of Tupperware. Um, so so yeah, it the lip was really super high, and that became cumbersome, and I got tired of it. So I bought one off of eBay, and it came the other day, but I haven't had a chance to get it ready and everything. So today, yeah, we're just using a dry palette today. Yeah, the Dreads lost the bolter discipline, which is disappointing to say the least. That was one thing that was really great about them. I don't, GW seems to think that that's like some kind of amazing, overpowering ability, and so they keep taking it away from units. Um, so only Terminators, bikes, and Terminators and bikes. Yeah, that's it. They're the only ones uh, that can fire while moving at full capacity. Um, you know, there aren't that many bolters like that are really that powerful. Yeah, Cryzen, exactly. That was one of the first ones that they initially put that out when it was like a test rule back in 8th edition, and everyone's like, "Yeah, Land Ready Crusader are always firing," and then they promptly took it away. I don't think it's that powerful. I think they could easily give it to literally every Space Marine unit in the book, and and they took it away from Centurions. Rip, another nerf to Centurions, just in case they didn't get enough already, not being core. But yeah, the uh, I don't think it's that. I mean, bolters are good for infantry, incidental infantry fire. They're not going to like win you games. It's more about incidental fire. Pretty solid coverage on this guy. I think we'll move on to the next guy. Oh, forgot right here. That's another thing. Always paint, yeah, the Grey Knights. Uh, always paint the sides of your crosses that are raised, because otherwise they look a little bit more realistic, like they're actually there, than if they were just uh, flat. I will probably paint this red, but I'm thinking that I'm going to do the background silver. So normally that means that I paint the silver after, I dull coat it because when you dull coat, especially with the dull coat I use Vallejo's matte varnish, and it is dead flat. Um, so normally I don't dull coat metallics because they look horrible after you dull coat them. I think in this circumstance I probably will paint that silver first, and then do the red cross simply so that I can get the red cross dull coated, and then just kind of touch up a little bit with some like edge highlighting of silver just to make it pop a little bit more again. Oops. Is that a firstborn rain? Yes, that is a firstborn rain. It is actually the old school. I think it's from the Devastator box. You can tell it's old because there's no treads on the back of his feet. Yeah, I think it's from the old Devastator box where they had like a kneeling guy that you could, have like the missile launcher. So, so yeah, it's I just thought it would be cool. He's All my Vanguard vets are magnetized, so they can have a jump pack or a regular backpack as needed. So the idea was is that he just landed and like smashed into the ground, uh, you know, deep striking in. Until the Emperor stands up from the Golden Throne. Yeah. I had two sets of kneeling legs. I used one for that guy, and I used the other one for my apothecary, who I painted not so long ago. Um, I was trying to get like a decent pose for my apothecary. I wanted something that was different. I liked the Primaris one, how he's kind of standing over the dead guy. Um, but I wanted a firstborn apothecary to have because he's a little bit cheaper, and that works out sometimes. Especially when you're running a competitive list. Points are tight, and sometimes you got to go with what you got to go with. So I I thank you. Um, I I went with the kneeling pose with the apothecary, and I put him over a dead guy, dead space marine, and he worked out really well. He's like shooting his bolt pistol. So thanks, Cohen. Yeah, I'm really pleased with this guy's pose. I made him a long time ago, but which is why he doesn't have a storm shield. Um, but even if I were to make him again, I'd still make the same pose. I do have a combat shield from something that I'm going to, give him on his arm so that he's actually going to be uh, doing what he's or having the gear that I've paid for him because Vanguard vets all storm shields now is definitely the way to go. Yeah, these are the Vanguard vet legs. The little tabard is a I want to say it's spell. How do I paint my black armor? So I use just a single edge highlight because edge highlighting is a pain, and I paint slow enough as it is. So torturing myself with multiple edge highlights or some of the other really great techniques, that are out there with layering and whatnot, is just gonna be I never ever finish a model. So I go with a single edge highlight. I can show you what it looks like. The black is Vallejo Game Air, excuse me, black. And then I mix that in about a 50-50 ratio with uh, Vallejo Model Color Basalt Gray. So here's one of my incursors. Come on, focus. There we go. Yeah. So you can see the edge on it. Dry brush bolt gun over top, grungy, dirty armor. Yeah, there's a lot of folks I've seen recently on Facebook and other places doing the really worn and weathered and battle worn look armor, and that's just not for me. Um, I prefer the super clean. They just landed in the drop zone to start the war kind of look. And I mean, I get, you know, that, obviously like Hell's Reach, they talked about how Grimaldus's armor was basically just gray ceramite by the end of it. But he spent months in that war zone without ever having a reprieve. Um, so, um, so yeah, so, it's certainly possible, but for me, like really, really weathered looking armor with like um, yellowed shoulder pads and stuff like that on the white for the initiates. That it just wouldn't happen unless they just couldn't take time to repaint, because Black Templars are one of the most proud chapters out there, and they would absolutely repaint their armor after every conflict, as would most Space Marines, to be honest. So yeah, so I prefer the clean look. But there's nothing wrong with however it is everyone else wants to paint. That's totally up to you. I prefer less battle damage and more we just dropped into this war zone. Occasionally I'll do some weathering. My vehicles I highlight with silver, edge highlight of Iron Hand steel, because the gray highlights on them just doesn't feel right. So I don't do it. It's never worked well for me. So I do the silver, and that is where I go with that, and it works out really well. It gives it a little bit of a worn battlefield look without being too much. General Disorderly, are you painting these as first Codex shoulder pads? So Black Templars do not follow the Codex in terms of color scheme. So while most chapters I think have like white trim or something like that, Black Templars they do not have a first company. They have the Sword Brethren, which is essentially the same thing, except they're not organized into a single company. So the Sword Brethren have a black background and red trim. And so yes, so these guys are the veterans of the chapter. Hope that answers your question. Velkhana here landing. Yep, that's what I was going for. I think it worked out pretty well. I had to uh, do some conversion on his arm that's holding the chainsword because it it was not at the angle I wanted. So I basically glued it at an odd angle and then filled in with green stuff to make the soft armor. Yeah, back in 4th edition, Black Templars had a codex. Those veteran players of us all now refer to it as like the Holy Book or the Holy Tome because it still has a lot of relevant information in it, surprisingly. Um, if you are you referring to the Blade Guard veteran that GW painted? You know, look, this guy has the same pad as the other one. Alright, let's move on to this guy. Um, but yeah, generally disordered. To answer your question, if you're referring to the Blade Guard veteran that GW showed, yeah, I agree. I don't like that they painted him with white shoulder pads. That's not what he should be, in my opinion. I think they did that because they didn't want to confuse players or something like that. And my thought process is really kind of like, well, you painted the Deathwing, the Dark Angel guy in Deathwing colors. How's that not confusing? So, I think it actually caused more confusion because people are like, yeah, I'm going to paint my Blade Guard with white shoulder pads. And all of the veteran players are like, no, they're sword brethren. Yeah, Blade Guard are absolutely sword brethren. I agree. This guy's shoulder pad is really, really thin. I'm trying to remember where this pad came from. Can't really remember. It might be a Grey Knight. Blade Brethren. Yep. Yeah, I think this was a Grey Knight pad that I carved the Psyker and Grey Knight crap off of, and then sanded it smooth because I liked the little shoulder piece there. Terminator Command Squads, yes, I do remember those. They were a lot of fun. I remember when we were the only chapter left in 5th edition that could still take 2 special weapons in a Terminator squad. Marshall Laroth had lots of fun with those, making shooty Templar lists, much to the dismay of the rest of us who were like, no, go all close combat. And he's like, this is better. Yeah, dual Cyclone missile launchers. They were gross. So I guess I'm gonna have to paint some kind of a word on this guy's shoulder pad. If you guys have any ideas, what should I paint on this little scroll right here? Definitely post it in the chat. Yeah, the magnets on the back is definitely something I'm glad I did. It makes it a lot easier to transition. Like if I wanted to run a drop pod list and take Vanguard vets, I could just take off their jump pack. That being said, um, jump pack van vets are where it's at right now. So until that changes, they'll pretty much always be having the jump pack. Oh god, dual plasma pistols. I remember when running pistols on vets was actually good. Sadly, pistols are just overpriced, especially plasma pistols, when it can kill you. I run all storm shields now on my van vets. They're just so durable. No points if you pay VL. Don't lie to me, Valcana. I know you don't play power level. You're welcome, Kita. I bought a bunch of storm shields from Shapeways for these guys, and I think I got 6 of them. 6 of them. I think they were from Ace Minis. And yeah, I really like them. And then when I was like, oh, I need to run all storm shields, I was like, well, what do I do? So I thought about ordering more, but I just didn't really want to, because one, I didn't feel like paying for the cost because Shapeways can be expensive. Yeah, it was Ace Minis. Um, so I I did instead, and I was like, well, we can have some variety. So I grabbed some of the Terminator, the standard Terminator Storm Shields, which are a little bit bigger than the Vanguard Vet ones, um, and used a couple of those. I had to convert them because they're all left-handed, and I needed right-handed ones. Um, so um, so I had to convert them to hold a right hand. And then for one of the Thunderhammer guys and this dude right here, I decided to go with more of like a combat shield, just because it'll fit on their wrist, and they're both using their hands for their weapons. So so yeah. But I think it came out pretty well. Here's one of the ones that I've already painted. Uh, that's a standard Terminator Storm Shield. So a little bit bigger than the Vanguard Vet Storm Shield. Um, so it worked out. They're not quite as big as um, the ones from Ace Minis, which is like this guy right here. Um, so, but it's all right. We can have some variety. All right, so we got some pretty good base coverage down, I think, on all these guys for this Mephiston red, except for these little things. I guess I can paint those silver, and then we can paint them red. So yeah, Iron Hand Steel for silver. This is literally the best paint for silver ever. Like Lead Belcher, just throw all your Lead Belcher away and get some Iron Hand Steel. And thank you, Velcana, for that. He's the one that turned me on to that. It's amazing. It's like one coat coverage compared to like 4 coats of Lead Belcher. So I'm gonna try to avoid the cross here as I paint this. But if I get a little on there, I'm not gonna worry about it. So we're just gonna paint back over it anyway. Also, I'm painting this straight out of the pot, which I know, oh, you should never do. You don't need to. You don't need to worry about thinning it. It's plenty thin in the pot. This stuff is amazing. A lot of metallics often are thin enough that you don't need to thin them further, because it'll just separate uh, the metallics, the metallic flakes in it. A Vallejo metal color. I've not used it. So yes, I have a moment. Convince me. I do have a Vallejo Chrome, and I love it. So I'm definitely a believer in Vallejo. I do think that GW, though, does an excellent job with their metallics for the most part. So, so yeah. Yeah, Forge World is, in my opinion, on its last legs. We don't see a ton of new releases from them anymore, and I think GW is moving away from that direction. They don't need Forge World for super finely, highly detailed minis. Yes. Retributor Gold, also amazing gold color. I love that color. It's the base color I use for my gold. Yep, I agree. Digital Luke. This is one of the other really good pads in the upgrade. One of my favorites too. You don't get many of them either. You only get like 2. Oh crap, scrolling. I guess that you're not a fan of scrolls. I don't mind them. I struggle to come up with things to write on them. That's my hang up. Yep, see, I told you, man. Iron Hand Steel. It's amazing. All right, I guess we'll try and do some edge highlighting here. I don't know how well it's going to work on camera, simply because I've often found myself having to hold it at bizarre angles just in order to get the angle I need. I probably could do much better if or have it much easier, I should say, if I uh, didn't glue the guys to their bases first. But yeah, I paint so slowly that I feel like I'll never get to use the models if they're not on their bases. So I tend to build and then paint later the full model. Sometimes, like these guys, I took their shield arm off because it would just be too difficult. White can be rough. It doesn't have to be. Watch my painting white video. Um, I will tell you either Ulthwan Gray or I used Vallejo's version, which is Ghost Gray. It's amazing. It's like such good coverage, even over black. something stuck in here. This cap. Dried paint. Wonderful. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Whenever I have to mix paint, like a large quantity of paint, like if I'm doing edge highlighting, I always use my dry palette. Anyway, we talked about wet palettes earlier, simply because I want to make sure I get the ratios right. On a wet palette, you can be kind of guessing at times, so. Craft paint. I would definitely not recommend craft paint. Simply because it's not designed for miniatures. The pigment is so thick that it ends up can be clumpy and whatnot. So I would always recommend using miniature paints for miniatures. Yeah, and I'm sure it's perfectly usable. But probably some of these guys that are using it on YouTube are professional painters, or certainly much better than your average painter. So yeah, fine for terrain. Yeah, exactly, fine for terrain. All right. I should get me some blackout. Always, the other thing too is always have your armor color whenever you edge highlight. Always have the color that you painted the armor handy for touch-ups, because inevitably it's gonna happen. See, you like that? Look at how fat that is. Terrible. Get good, Alex. That's better. Another thing you can use for terrain, especially like basing, like if you're going to be painting like a large flat surface, like the surface of your play area or whatnot, that you can use, which is really easy and fairly inexpensive, house paint. And then once you seal it, it's as good as anything else. My friend did it on his desert board. It looks amazing. Uh, Thank you, Lord Valandil. Glad you could make it. Hope you have a good night's rest. That's terrible. Too much paint. Only the edgiest of edged highlights for me. I want to get this one. Oof. Look at that mold slip right there, GW. Come on. Yes, this is my Series 7 Winsor & Newton. I love this brush. It's a size 1, and I've had it for years, and it has served me extremely well. I mean, look at that tip. So I do just about all my detail work with this brush. I do have a size 0, which I use when when this brush is just like actually too big to fit into the space. Usually like eyes, for example, I'll use the 0 just so that I don't get too much of the brush into the spot. But yeah, highly recommend at least having 1 or 2 of these brushes in your stable. That being said, I have plenty of cheap cheap junky brushes that I use for whatever, workhorse stuff. Um, I even bought a couple of GW brushes just to try them out. I got their layer, not this layer brush, it's a base brush, and one of their dry brushes. They're okay. They're not as good as GW advertises them to be. GW makes their brushes out to be like they're the same quality as like Winsor Newton or Raphael or these other high-end brushes, and they charge accordingly. But they're really not that good. GW brushes aren't bad, but they're not a $20 brush for sure. Jeez, that's horrible. Too much paint. There we go. That's better. But this is why I keep a little bit of my base color on my palette, because then it allows me to fix mistakes like that. Yeah, I'd agree. I'd probably, if all GW brushes were like $9 or $10, I'd say that's a fair price point. But they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and they're gonna charge a premium for every single one of their products. It's just how they are. And I mean, to be fair, their miniatures are excellent, especially the new stuff. All the new stuff is amazing. Really, really great quality stuff. I still think it's too expensive. They could probably tone it down a bit, but um, $5 lettering brushes. What are those? Ah, okay. How are those work out for you? Yeah, for $5, it's not bad. I'll also typically buy every so often a pack of the like get like 6 brushes for $5 that are synthetics. Um, they uh, they work really well as like workhorse brushes, dry brushes, things like that. Uh, Brian asks, do I see any merit for the old 20-man Crusader squad? Unfortunately, no. The reason is the scout models, the neophytes, are 14 points a model, and they are absolutely not worth 14 points a model. You get one wound Marine with a 4+ save, When even like tactical marines are 4 points more and get that 2 wounds and 3+ save. Um, especially when crusaders are now 15 points for some reason. Um, the Unfortunately, they're just not points efficient, especially when you consider. I could see running one neophyte to get the smokescreen keyword, um, but uh, not taking a 20-man blob, unfortunately. Not in a competitive environment, anyway. They're just too expensive for what you get, and they don't have Astartes chainswords, which also hurts them a lot. Um, Plus, the other thing is, especially when it comes to Crusaders versus Assault Intercessors, yes, Valkana, they can still get the invul for 1 turn with the relic. Um, when it comes to Assault Intercessors versus Crusaders, as far as like getting some cheap OBSEC, Crusaders are great. You can, even get that smokescreen keyword if you need to. Um, but as far as a combat unit, Assault Intercessors are going to win out every time. Not that troops are really combat units, they're more like backup assault units uh, with clearing other troops. They're good at that. But as far as an actual melee unit, you want to stick to Van Vets and uh, Terminators. If you use Sniper Scouts as eliminators, um, the only issue there is the size difference. Um, Snipers, Scouts especially, are tiny. They're very old models, most of them, and they're very small. You could, in theory, put them on the bigger bases, but they'd be there's a significant size difference uh, between them. So yeah, I think Eliminators are on 40 millimeter bases. I could be wrong though. I don't run. I don't run snipers. It's not my thing. What do you hate about Phobos armor, FD? Nice of you to join us, Link. Oh, that is a thick line. I'm gonna have to fix that. Digital Lurk. I cheated a bunch of my firstborn onto the new larger bases. Honestly, it's not cheating. The new Space Marine, the reboxed firstborn Space Marine boxes are coming with 32 millimeters, so they should be on 32s in my opinion. You don't have to, but any firstborns that I run, except for Scouts, because they are on 25s, I'm putting on 32s because they look better. Yeah, especially some of the firstborns. The running guys don't, the running leg guys don't have that issue, but some of the firstborn dudes, they're like hanging off their bases because they're so squat looking. I will say I did put my firstborn apothecary on a 40 millimeter, simply because the dead marine on his base looked silly on a 32. It was just not quite enough room. So he is on a 40, which is technically not supposed to be, but my playgroup doesn't care because he looks cool. Yes, on this guy, the shoulders are from the upgrade kit. Um, I have this fella has a third-party one from Shapeways. And I can see that there's a bit of a spot there. I may have to sand that and repaint it. We'll see. Also, you can see this guy is on, speaking of 32 millimeters, this guy is on a conversion. You can see the right there. But once it's spaced, it can't tell. Oh boy, onto the arms. I hate doing edge highlighting on the arms. It's just such a soft edge on their shoulders, or not shoulders, on their elbows. I'm gonna have to go behind, and I always have to go in behind and fix it. Yeah, there's not a huge advantage to bigger bases, to be honest. Your auras are slightly bigger if you have auras, but beyond that, you're harder to fit in spaces and stuff like that, so. Yeah, bigger bases can definitely be a negative, especially when you're trying to like fit wholly within something. Getting out of a transport, for example. Yes, rule of cool always wins in my book, which is why I did my apothecary on a 40. Which I'll show you guys if you want. Here's my APOC on a 40 millimeter base. Time for lunch. A little early for lunch. 11:12. Apparently some of us just woke up. Laying to edition. Your apothecary is your warlord. That is risky. Although there's not a huge detriment uh, to having your warlord killed anymore. Used to be you got victory points for that. Now it's a secondary, and it's not a very good secondary, to be honest. He's in a list with Helbert in the EC. Why isn't Helbert your warlord? Frontline commander is amazing. Garage Hammer 8th edition. Why 8th edition? What don't you like about 9th? Primaris. I mean, Primaris were in 8th. I think the new books are all, for the most part, pretty balanced. Um, there's some stuff that's ridiculous. Mortarion, for example. Dark Angels having perma-transhuman on their some of their guys is a bit much, but not undoable. Actually, we match up very well against both those armies because we don't care about your toughness 5 or your perma-transhuman and assault doctrine. We just auto wound you on 6s. Also, Death Guard like to spam mortal wounds, like a lot of armies do. We don't care about those either. 5+. Yeah, like Link said, Primaris are more balanced in ninth and in eighth, especially when you consider the nerf to like aggressors and eliminators. Both got nerfs, um, so I think both are still playable. Maybe not for Black Templars, but I mean for other armies certainly. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, you know, uh, Having fun is more important than whatever rule set that you run. Cheney asks, any value in rolling with a gladiator in a BT list? Maybe. I think they're a little expensive for what you get from them. That being said, they're really cool tanks, and I think that you can make one work. You just have to make sure you support it properly with other units. Um, the only one I will not recommend is the Lancer. The Lancer is terrible. Don't run the Lancer. Take either the Reaper or the Valiant. I think it is the other one. So those are going to be the ones that you want to run if you're going to do that. I think I've about wrapped this guy up for edge highlighting. Yep, you can definitely make it into an impulsor. Um, I actually prefer the impulsor with a covered back. I bought the conversion kit from oh, what's the name of it? I can't think of it now. There's a third party one. Pop Goes the Monkey is making one now, but there's also another one that came out first, and that's the one I bought. Um, so yeah, so my impulsor is already got a covered back, and the conversion kit that I bought for it has a turret ring, so I could plop like predator, um, my predator turret on it, and the side sponsons just come out. So pretty easy to convert it into a gladiator of some kind. Badly 10 says, to be honest, I still enjoy aggressors as a BT player who doesn't like to purge heretics with flamers and lieutenant to help them punch in the face. Yeah, absolutely. They're not a bad unit by any means. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're nerfed, they suck. I disagree. I think they were taken from broken to just, good. Um, but that being said, they can certainly hit hard. I think they're core, so you can benefit from rerolls, and you can give them like the Aurelian Shroud for a turn if you need them to, if they're out in the open. They can certainly work. Are they like the top choice in their slot? No, but if you like them, you can make them work. All right. Now that the silver is dried, let's get that painted red. Because I'm tired of edge highlighting. I promised you edge highlighting. Here it is. I've given it to you. I'm not doing all three models. there is definitely a lot of elite choices, and a lot of good elite choices. It's a good thing a battalion gives us 6 slots, because they are needed. Yep, I agree. The EC being a HQ is really, really detrimental to him. He would be worth taking in a lot more lists if he were not an HQ, but HQ are uh, too valuable for a unit that does not buff anyone else. Um, he's uh, he's probably the best character killer in the game for the points, but he's just he doesn't do anything for the rest of the army, and we generally thrive off of characters that buff our units. So unfortunately, he sits on my shelf. Yeah, he should. In my opinion, they should make him a no force org slot. Like if you have like a captain or a chaplain in the list, he should become no force org. So if you wanted to take him as your only HQ, you could. Um, but if there's one of those other ones in there, he doesn't have to take up a slot in that detachment. I think that's how he should work. Yeah, I remember that too. You had to take him. But he buffed the army back then. There was no reason not to take him. He gave you vows. Um, so getting an army-wide buff that you choose at the start of the game. If he did that, oh, he'd be auto-included in every list. Um, Hopefully, if we ever get our own supplement, GW brings those back in some fashion, even if they're not tied directly to the Emperor's Champion. Yep, 4 vows. I remember one was a 6+ invulnerable save. One was the most common one, which was accept any challenge, which went from being hitting on a 3+ to rerolls to hit, which was amazing. Then there was +1 strength, which was pretty good. And then Can't remember what the fourth one was. I hope we don't get a rules expansion in another campaign book. That would not be my choice. Alright. Well, he's coming along. Uphold the honor of the Emperor. Yeah, the Invul. Yeah, I mentioned that one. I can't think of the other one, though. There was another one that did something else. I can find out real quick. Oh, Abhor the Witch. That's right. How could I forget that one? You must make a consolidate move d6 inches towards the nearest visible enemy unit. Crusader Seals affect this movement as normal. Boy, you guys remember Crusader Seals? And then any psychic powers are nullified on a 5-up. Oh yeah, so yeah, we kind of actually keep that one, which is great. So we did at least keep one of those vows. Abhor the Witch. That was having that 5++ against mortal wounds is amazing, but especially as much mortal wounds as there are right now, between psychics and other things, it's really, really handy. It's a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. All right, guys. Well, we got a little painting done. A little edge highlighting. Wasn't quite so torturous as I had feared, so that's good. So I think that'll wrap it up for today. Thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate, especially those of you who had to get up early in the morning. Badil 10 says, also may I ask, when you paint your BTs, do you stick to pauldrons of the old codex or the new ones, rims, crosses, etc.? Yeah, so I stick to the old ones. I go with what's in the old codex. I actually have a video about it. If you want to check that out. I did, of course, somehow forget to mention Bladeguard in there, but I believe Bladeguard are sword brethren. But yeah, that video pretty succinctly goes over what I use for all of our units as far as color and trim and things like that. I don't subscribe to GW's thing of, oh well, these are close assault or close support or whatever. Like assault intercessors would have red trim in that case with white pads, and they're troops. They're regular initiates, in my opinion. So yeah, check out that video. It kind of definitely goes over a lot of the stuff that what GW says, and then what I think it really should be as far as what our lore is, and the way Black Templars work. So, great question. All right, well, like I said, thanks guys for joining me. Come check out our Discord if you haven't already. Really great group of community people there. Love to have you. We also have a Patreon, so I really want to thank all of our Patreons for supporting us. Thank you guys so much for coming out today. I know it was early for some of you, so I appreciate it. But yeah, so we will see you next time.